on the vibrant waves. Efala Yilawawa, Tatin Dabiaro, Town Pio. Keep it locked on the dial. Sunsplash FM, your lively show.
I am Igbai for Benita. Here are the top story news. Domestic refineries dump $3.13 billion crude overpricing dispute. French trade deficit swells to €6.9 billion over Middle East conflict. Troops rescue 9 kidnapped victims in Kogi State. Here are the news in details. The All Progressive Congress in Southwest had urged youth across Ondo State to obtain their permanent voters cards, as it is the Independent National Electoral Commission has reopened the voter registration exercise across Nigeria. The ruling party said this was necessary to enable the youth to perform their civic responsibility in the forthcoming general election. The APC Southwest youth leader, Daramola Adesuyi, stated this in a statement issued on Thursday. According to him, following the successful conclusion of the second phase of the Independent National Electoral Commission's permanent voter card registration exercise on April 17, 2026, the statement was issued to formally notify all APC youths and other stakeholders of the commencement of the third and final phase of the registration exercise. The news reported that INEC had announced that the third and final phase of the nationwide continuous voter registration would commence on May 11, 2026, as preparations intensify ahead of the 2027 general elections. New worries about the credibility of the 2027 general elections came up on Wednesday, with the Independent National Electoral Commission warning that growing insecurity across Nigeria could make it hard to hold free, fair and credible polls. But the opposition parties firmly rejected the idea of sending soldiers to polling stations, arguing that civil authorities should handle election security. The military plays a supporting last resort role in Nigeria's elections, used mainly in high-risk scenarios but controversial due to legal and political concerns. The concerns arise amid heightening political activity, early alignment, and growing anxiety over the security environment ahead of the next election cycle. INEC Chairman Prof. Joha Amputien raised the alarm during a visit to the Inspector General of Police, Tunji Disu, in Abuja, where he emphasized that persistent violence and threats to the electoral process pose a significant risk to democratic stability. The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission on Wednesday said the Federal High Court in Kaduna has granted former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai access to medical treatment while in custody. The ruling followed a compassionate plea by defense counsel during proceedings in the ongoing trial of the former governor over alleged money laundering and corruption-related offenses. El-Rufai and a co-defendant, Joel Adoga, are facing a 10-count charge before Justice Rilwan Aikawa of the Federal High Court, Kaduna, bordering on alleged conversion and possession of proceeds of corruption, as well as money laundering contrary to the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022. Wednesday's proceedings, according to the statement of the ICP spokesman John O'Day, centered on El-Rufai's application seeking variation of previously granted bail conditions. Earlier, the court had admitted El-Rufai to bail in the sum of 200 million naira with two sureties in like sum, while the administrative bail earlier granted to the second defendant was adopted by the court. The matter was adjourned to May 7, 2026 for a ruling on the application seeking variation of the bail conditions. The Sokoto state government has confirmed the death of 33 children following a fresh outbreak of cerebrospinal meningitis in parts of the state. As health authorities battle a growing number of infections, cerebrospinal meningitis is a deadly infection that causes inflammation of the protective membranes covering the brain and spinal cord. It spreads more easily during the dry and hot season, particularly in overcrowded communities with poor ventilation. Confirming the outbreak, Commissioner for Health Farouk Abubakar disclosed this on Wednesday during an advocacy meeting with district heads of SAMAN and MNTE. The meeting was organized by the state's Primary Healthcare Development Agency in collaboration with Site Savers and the Shigari Foundation. Authorities have continued to urge residents to seek immediate medical attention once symptoms appear and to ignore false beliefs surrounding the disease as efforts to contain the outbreak intensify. Troops of 12th Brigade Nigerian Army have successfully rescued 9 kidnapped victims and foiled a terrorist logistics movement in separate but coordinated operations conducted on 6 May 2026 in Kogi State. Lieutenant Hassan Abdullahi, spokesman, while confirming the operation on Thursday, said the rescued victims comprised 5 boys, 2 girls, and 2 adult females, believed to be the wives of the proprietor of the orphanage recently attacked in the state. Acting on credible intelligence and maintaining persistent operational pressure, troops of the brigades blocking force intercepted and recovered the victims within the Agwaja Forest General Area in Lokoja local government area. Business news. Domestic refiners in Nigeria left an estimated 3.13 billion naira dollars worth of crude oil unlifted in the first quarter of 2026, highlighting deepening inefficiencies in the country's crude supply framework. Analysis of data released by the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission by our correspondent on Wednesday showed that while crude producers made significant volumes available under the domestic crude supply obligation, refiners were unable to take delivery of a large portion due to persistent commercial and structural challenges. Commenting, the Crude Oil Refiners Association of Nigeria has attributed to the growing reliance of the Dangote Petroleum Refinery on important crude to commercial pricing structures and crude grade differentials in the domestic markets. Speaking in an interview with our correspondent, Koran Publicity Secretary Eche Idoko said the refinery's preference for imported crude is largely driven by economics and product compatibility rather than lack of demand for local supply. He argued that the current pricing framework places domestic refiners at a disadvantage compared to international sourcing options, particularly in terms of competitiveness and risk exposure. According to him, a more tailored pricing mechanism is needed to reflect Nigeria's local refining realities and reduce reliance on external markets. Foreign news. Sports news. Borussia Dortmund defender Niklas Süle has confirmed he will retire from professional football at the end of the season, bringing his career to a close at the age of 30. The Germany national football team international decided following a knee injury suffered in last month's Bundesliga match against TSG 1899 Hoffenheim. Süle initially feared he had suffered a third anterior cruciate ligament ACL rupture, an injury that has already disrupted his career in the past. Although medical tests later confirmed he had avoided an ACL tear, the defender said the scare changed his outlook on continuing in the sport. Speaking on the Spar Mecha podcast on Wednesday, Süle revealed he was overcome with emotion after the initial diagnosis, saying he went into the shower and cried for 10 minutes as he believed the worst had happened. Even after receiving the more positive MRI results, Süle said he had already decided to retire, explaining that he could not face the possibility of another long rehabilitation period for further serious injury setbacks. Süle will remain under contract with Borussia Dortmund until 13 June, after which he will officially step away from the game. Rising oil prices owing to the Iran war saw France's trade deficit widen by 1.4 billion euros in March to 6.9 billion euros, authorities said. Imports hit 59.3 billion in March, an increase of 1.8 billion over the previous month. Customs authorities stated it was largely due to the rise in energy prices linked to the crisis in the Middle East, particularly natural hydrocarbons. A further factor was an increase in energy products shipments of refined petroleum products and electricity. France's trade balance deteriorated with the European Union in dipping 700 million euros, mainly with Germany and also with non-Europe to the tune of 800 million euros, which Paris put down largely to an increase in natural gas supplies from Kazakhstan. The trade balance, however, did improve with Asia and Africa. Over the 12-month period from April 2025 to March 2026, the French trade balance deteriorated by 1.4 billion to 62.3 billion. And that's the news at this hour. Thank you for listening. I am Igbai Fabenita.
Yes, he's one of the best defenders.
Eré ìdárayá, ìròyìn lẹ́kùnrẹ́rẹ́, ìròyìn àwọn òṣèré, orin tó dùn létí, àwàdà lóríṣiríṣi, ìròyìn àdúgbò wa, àṣà àti ìṣe, ìròyìn.